I gotta assume we've all seen the movie Signs with Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
Called classic M. Night Shyamalan movie. The scene like where they're having that in-depth conversation about like the end of the world, where Mel Gibson goes to Joaquin Phoenix. He's like, is it possible that there are no coincidences? And I was like, I saw that the other day. It's like one of my wife's favorite movies, and I actually got in trouble because I let my daughter watch some of it with me. But it really got me thinking about our guy Tony here, because when it comes to the Red Wings, you know, we had that weird thing happen where Tony was watching the Bear, and the next thing we know, the Red Wings selected Carter Bear in this June's draft. Weird, right? Then, by some miracle, at that draft, we got Carter Bear to do a quick intro for this podcast. So, coincidence? I kind of thought so at the time. But now here we are at the start of the preseason, and the main storyline so far for me has been the play of 7th round pick Emmett Finney. And I thought, wait, I know someone who's named their child that. And that would be who? Tony. It's crazy to me. So, and now, Tony, I know you have a small announcement, so I don't want to ruin it for you. So tell us what's going on in your life now that could possibly, if this came to fruition, could just go off the charts.
Yeah, so we got our first kid 3 years ago, named him Emmett. And then the next draft, the Red Wings took Emmett Finney in the 7th round. I thought, it's kind of cool. His name's Emmett. My kid's name is Emmett. They spell it differently, but still, same name. I'm going to root for this guy. Yeah, it's 7th round pick. We'll see what happens. And then each year is like that Vince McMahon meme where it's like keeps getting better and surprising. And yeah, it's not out of the question to see him potentially make the opening night roster, a first-year full-time professional. So also, Evan mentioned news, and we're expecting our second child coming up in November here.
Congratulations, by the way. Congratulations all around.
Absolutely.
It's a girl. You know, we talked about coincidences. Evan brought this up like, oh yeah, Tony, I know you like all these coincidences with like the Bear and Carter Bear and Emmett Finney and your son Emmett, and you have another kid coming up. And then I probably shocked him so much, or his jaw dropped to the floor when I said what her name is going to be. And, you know, what that could potentially mean for the Red Wings if there are no coincidences, but it's going to be Quinn. So,
boom, Quinn Hughes to the Red Wings confirmed. There it is right there. I mean, wouldn't that be great, guys? Come on.
Give us a lot to talk about, that's for sure.
Welcome to the Flying Octopus Podcast, offering a new perspective on Red Wings hockey, as well as all the important news from around the NHL. And now, here are your hosts, Tony Wolak, Devin Little, and Evan Sabrin.
Hey, it's Carter Bear, and you're listening to the Flying Octopus Podcast.
Welcome to episode 53 of the Flying Octopus Podcast. This is the Mo Sider edition, my favorite number. We've got a fun show for you guys today because, quite frankly, the first two preseason games for the Red Wings have been, well, quite fun. We're going to recap Tuesday's 3-2 preseason win over the Blackhawks, in which the Red Wings outshot Chicago by a margin of 43-17, and we're also going to react to tonight's 5-2 win over the Sabres. Tony, Devin, and I will also analyze what it is we're looking forward to in the preseason as we gear up for the 2025-26 year. Before we get started, here's a quick reminder of where you can find us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Flying Octopod and leave us a comment or a rating or make fun of our appearance, as some of you like to do. And at least it means you're watching. Also follow us on Twitter, Blue Sky, at Flying Octopod, and you can listen to us on iTunes and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And guys, by the way, you know, I sent it out to you this weekend. We hit 5,000 downloads this week, so we may be at Devin's house next week celebrating with water balloons for that milestone. So boys, let's get right into it. Sabres Red Wings just wrapped up back-to-back wins for the Red Wings this week to start this preseason. 2-0, outshot the Blackhawks and Sabres by a combined margin of 83-34. On Tuesday, goal scorers were Carter Mazur, Nate Danielson on a nice tip-in, and Emmett Finney, who had a goal and assist that almost made me have to change my shorts when I was at work. 40 shots tonight versus Buffalo. Goal scored by Mason Appleton, MBN, Dylan Larkin, Moritz Seider, and Andrew Kopp. Who wants to start to temper expectation first, and what did you guys see this week that you really, really liked?
Well, if we're tempering expectations, I'll start. All right, look, playing the Blackhawks, playing the Sabres, both squads have some NHLers, a good amount of AHLers, some junior players. So it's not like you're playing the big league squad. Those are the last two preseason games against the Maple Leafs. Those are the games that are probably most important for seeing how ready this team is for the regular season. For now, we can certainly enjoy what we're seeing on the ice, and that's the kids performing, the Red Wings winning, the Red Wings outshooting opponents, the Red Wings dominating games. Like, I know that over the past however many years, those games have been few and far between for the most part. But what has stood out to me the most is just the readiness level of the kids. I'm talking Nate Danielson, I'm talking Carter Mazur, Amadeus Lombardi. They all look like they could step into the Red Wings lineup game one against Montreal and not look out of place whatsoever. Now we could throw in Michael Branstad-Nygaard into that, and Finney into that as well. They both have looked like NHLers from the start, which is great. So what you want to see. Draft and develop, they're developing. They're going to develop into NHL players. Great. Tempering expectations, what the competition is. It was nice that Buffalo brought some of their NHL players for Thursday night's matchup, most notably Owen Power and Michael Kesselring on defense. That's their second pair. And, a few top forwards, if you want to call it that, Peyton Krebs, Jack Quinn, other players who you would expect to play against in a regular season game. So see the Red Wings dominating, when you see all four forward lines contributing to the offense, when you see them dominating physically, like it's what you want to see. They're keeping the momentum from training camp, from the red and white game into the preseason, and frankly, being led by the kids, are scoring a lot, and they're absolutely taking it to these teams. And it's like it feels like a breath of fresh air, honestly, just because of like how much turmoil has been around this franchise for the last however many years. And I know it's preseason, that's the first two preseason games. Still got 6 more to go, still got a lot more learning opportunities, in the near future here. But for a start, pretty good.
I don't disagree. And your big takeaway about all the kids is my big takeaway as well. I know Emmett Finney's getting the lion's share of attention right now, and to be fair, he definitely deserves a lot of it. But it's not just him. Nate Danielson looks like he could be the fourth line center at minimum, and he'd do well. And I don't think that's what the Red Wings would want to do with him. But my point is that he looks like an NHLer. Branstad-Nygaard clearly has an NHL shot. He scored today against the Sabres, and he looks like if he's not going to be a force this season, he's going to be a force next season. He's well on his way. Tony mentioned others as well. Carter Mazur. We talked with the boys from Hockeytown West earlier this week about how he kind of, by no fault of his own, kind of just blended into the crowd a little bit during the red and white game, and even a little bit after that as well. He's still showing well for himself too. So don't let those previous comments, downplay how good he's looked too. He's very much in that group of young players that are very much pushing for roster spots. I think we are, over the course of a week, maybe, we've gone from Yzerman didn't do enough this offseason to maybe he shouldn't have done anything, because clearly there's a lot of kids that are at least ready to push, if not ready to play.
Let's talk about Emmett Finney for a minute. He obviously was the story of training camp, joining Dylan Larkin's top line with Lucas Raymond and staying there for the red and white game. He looked great in the first preseason game. And watching tonight's game, Thursday night's game against the Sabres, again, level of competition varies. Obviously, that whole caveat. He didn't look out of place at all. He looked like I hesitate to say this name, but like the Justin Abdelkader role with Pavel Datsyuk and Johan Franzen from years past. The Tyler Bertuzzi role from a couple years ago. Just the guy to go in there, muck it up, get the puck out, let Larkin and Raymond do the heavy lifting. Eye test said he looked good. I went on Natural Stat Trick after the game, just like, all right, I know the Red Wings got a shot advantage. Let's just see what things look like. I would encourage you to go take a look, because his metrics were not only through the roof, but relative to the rest of the team, they're outstanding. And like, I get it. You're on the top line with Larkin and Raymond, but you individually, if you're having like three high danger chances, 5 hits, like you're creating on the top line, like that's what you want. And I know Todd McClellan brought up another player who kind of was an unheralded addition to the lineup during his time with the Los Angeles Kings, Alex Laferriere, one of the top players that I was hoping the Red Wings would target over the summer, just because for these very reasons. And for him to come out and say, like, it reminds me of when Laferriere forced his way onto the team. He just kept showing up and kept showing up and kept showing up. And then by Christmas, he was still there and was contributing way more than expected. And I think that's the same story with Finney right now. Like, you're going to take things day by day. You know, like traditional thinking has, you know, at some point he's going to tail off. Like, you can't ride a heater forever. But like, if you keep showing up day after day, game after game, doing your part, excelling in your part, no matter what it is, and the team is enjoying success, then like keep him around. Like, why send him down if he's, you know, if he has reached the point where he is ready for the NHL, keep him in the NHL. Now, if we're going to get into predictions more in a little bit, but since we're on the topic of Finney, I do think he's going to break camp with team. You know what I mean? The preseason will end. He'll stay with the team. He'll be in the opening night lineup. And I don't know if he'll stay there for the whole season, but he's done enough so far to, you know, warrant consideration for a roster spot from the front. And if he keeps doing what he's doing, then yeah, no brainer, he'll stick around with the team. And then from after game 1, like, we'll see how things go. I do anticipate that first line wing role opposite Raymond to be like a revolving door throughout the season. And if Finney wins it, initially, I don't expect him to be there the whole season. But again, if he's on a heater, keep him there.
And the thing for me too is that, well, it was, you know, it's a lot of fun to watch him make, you know, between the leg passes to Carter Mazur and do all and produce, right? He had that 2-point game against the Blackhawks. He doesn't need to produce every single game to earn a roster spot. I don't think that's necessarily what caught Todd McClellan's attention. It's just the ferocity in which he plays. He's complimenting Larkin and Raymond on that line. If he can continue to hit the gas, like McClellan says, he's going to be on the roster. And that's where it goes back to what Tony's talking about, where with Alex Laferriere with the Kings 2 seasons ago, where he just kept showing up day after day after day. And then before you know it, it's Christmas time and he's still on the roster, and you can't put him down. He's part of the team now. That's very much the trajectory that Finney's on, like Tony illustrated there. I guess my point here is a few years ago when Lucas Raymond forced his way onto the roster, we weren't all expecting that, right? He got a spot. He got a look on the top line next to Dylan Larkin. He never looked out of place. He didn't produce every single game, but he always made things happen. He always looked dangerous. And by the end of preseason, it was impossible to not have Lucas Raymond on the roster. As long as Finney's doing what he's doing, as long as he's continued to bring energy to that line, as long as he's continuing. One thing I liked this game against the Sabres, when Larkin scored his goal, Finney was right by the crease. If there was a rebound, Finney would have gotten it. It's those little things. As long as he's continuing to do that, they're not going to be able to send him down. It's crazy. I know you could just kind of keep hammering at this point, but it's crazy that we're talking about Finney being on this roster, because it was just not on the radar at all, even a month ago. But here we are, and he's like I said a little bit ago, he's the talk of the town right now, and for good reason. It's almost a shame that there's so many other kids that are also looking good, because this 7th round pick is kind of overshadowing everything. But man, he's been a delight to watch so far this preseason.
A 20-year-old 7th round pick. It's amazing. And the hockey IQ, you can see it on the ice. It's amazing. And, you know, the Red Wings have had a history of back in the day of hitting on those late round picks. And man, if this is one of them, it's a pretty amazing story for Hockey Town. And I mean, it just keeps happening and happening. Camp, practice, games. It could be something special. It's definitely a story to follow. I not sure I agree with you that it'll make the opening night roster yet, Tony, but I need to see a couple more games, man. I got to see a couple more games before you can put a 20-year-old 7th round pick into the NHL.
So, you know, there's 6 more games for Finney and others to prove their value to the Red Wings. And that's one of the things I'm looking at for these next 6 games, right? It's like, which kids will continue to show up and continue to perform? Like we mentioned from the top, Danielson, Brandsegg Nygaard, Lombardi, Finney, Mazer, Axel Sandin Pellikka, like all of these kids, it's great that they have done well so far, but will they continue to do that? Will they be consistent enough throughout the next 6 games for however many they get into, since I know it's a compressed schedule? So that's one of the things I'm looking for. Just how do they fare when you're playing against more NHL competition and likely in some of these road games coming up? How are they faring in the Toronto games at the end of the preseason? Let's see if they can keep it up, because if they can, then Yzerman's going to have some really tough decisions about who he's going to keep and who he's going to either send down or waive or trade or what have you to ice the most competitive roster. In a similar vein, what's going to happen for Detroit's second pair? Obviously, Simon Evanson's been out. He returned to practice Thursday, so hopefully he's not too far away from getting into a preseason game or just being ready for the regular season. But who is going to skate next to him, provided Ben Sherrod is on the top pair with Moritz Seider, which maybe he will, maybe he won't. But who will be that top 4 defenseman? Right now, based on what I've seen, it's Albert Johansson is the leader in the clubhouse. It's not finalized yet, though. Like that, he does not have it locked down. He performed well on Thursday night against the Sabres, and he's got to keep it up. But I wouldn't rule out Jacob Bernard Docker just yet. I wouldn't rule out Eric Gustafsson just yet. I wouldn't rule out Travis Hamonic yet. I mean, it could go any way depending on how these next 6 games go. But I just want one a top 4 defenseman for the Red Wings for at least, and then we'll see how things go from there. But just one of them, see who snuffs up. And lastly, penalty kill. Obviously, that was a big talking point last season. The Red Wings changed their scheme up a little bit this year. It feels a little bit more free-flowing, and the players are a little more aware of their responsibilities and how it relates to the other players on the ice. You'd like to see it be a little better, especially as you have more NHL regulars in the lineup and a little bit more cohesion in the 4-man unit there. But I just want to see some progress, like power play goals in back-to-back games. It is what it is when you have a mixed lineup, but I do want to see it improve as the preseason moves along. Evan, how about you?
Yeah, I think all of those are definitely on my mind as well. Selfishly, there's definitely a little bit of watching out for potential Griffins things going on in my mind. There was that line against the Blackhawks where it was Emmett Finney, Nate Danielson, and Michael Brandsegg Nygaard. All 3 of those guys are making cases for Detroit right now, but also all 3 could very well end up in Grand Rapids, and that's a heck of a top line, honestly, if that's where that ends up. And then even Michael Postava today against the Sabres, I thought he looked pretty solid too. And, obviously all eyes are on Sebastian Cossa when it comes to, being the 3rd goaltender on the depth chart and being the starter in Grand Rapids this season. But they signed Postava to be, in that tandem with Cossa and push him for starts. And in our first real glimpse of him in a competitive setting with the Red Wings, obviously, it was second half of the game against the Sabres and in the second preseason game on the schedule, but he looked good. You're going to want to see more from Cossa to kind of give you confidence that he is still the guy. I'm not doubting him by any means, don't get me wrong, but it's just another storyline to kind of keep an eye on, at least from my perspective, when you're looking at Griffin's things. And then kind of finally, too, and this kind of goes along the lines of some things that Tony was talking about, too. I'm just really curious to see how the lines ultimately take shape. It kind of already feels like we've got at least a somewhat grasp on what they're going to look like. We feel pretty good about the DeBrincat Casper Kane line. There's that Kopp Rasmussen Appleton line that those 2 lines feel like they're pretty solid. Obviously there's room for flexibility there, but gun to my head today, those are going to be 2 of the lines on opening night in the opening night lineup. And then who's on the top line left wing with Larkin and Raymond? Right now it looks like Emmett Finney, but we'll see what happens there. And then how does that 4th line shape up? This is where the kids pushing really kind of comes into play, because there's only so many spots to go around, especially if those 2 lines are going to be a thing. There's even fewer spots available. And also, what does that mean for a veteran like JT Compher, right? Like he's kind of already becoming an afterthought when you think about this offense. And depending on how you kind of view the Red Wings lineup, again, considering those 2 lines are kind of already there is come for another high-priced fourth-line center, depending on how you look at that grind line with Kopp and Rasmussen and Appleton. I don't know that makes sense, but there's still a lot to be decided there, obviously. Some preseasons, it kind of feels like you're going through the motions because you kind of already know what the lineup's going to look like, or you kind of already know who's going to be on the roster. You kind of already know a lot, honestly. And I kind of felt going into the preseason that we kind of already knew a lot. But real quickly, it seems like, oh, no, we still have a lot to find out because these kids there's so many kids that came out of nowhere and are ready to play. And they can't all play. But I believe Eisman when he says that when kids announce themselves as ready, he'll find a way to make room for them. It just might not be before opening night. It's like I said, there's more storylines going on right now than I thought there would be. And it's honestly a lot of fun.
You know what's crazy is that we've talked about all the top Red Wings prospects tonight so far, and there hasn't been one mention of Axel Sandin Pellikka.
Sandin Pellikka, yeah.
I mean, when's the last time? That's usually the first guy we get to and worry about. What have you seen out of him in these 2 preseason games that draws your interest?
I'll say real quick, to some extent, he's as advertised, right? Like, he moves the puck very well. He has a certain authority on the back end. Thought he looked real good on the power play against the Sabres. You definitely see that his size is a factor. And by that, I mean, he's not huge like everyone else on the blue line. But also, it's not something that holds him back, at least not yet. But I also think that he's clearly very good, very skilled, but he isn't standing out the same way that like Emmett Finney is. He's not standing out the same way that Nate Danielson is. And that's not a knock on him at all. It's just kind of like more proof of the fact that like he does need a little bit more time. He's, again, he can still prove me wrong. There's still a lot of hockey to be played before opening night, but I feel pretty good in saying he's going to start the season in Grand Rapids right now. And that's not a knock on him at all, but a lot of promise there. Very clearly has a skill set that has led him to be successful to this point and why we talk about him all the time. But you can also see where there's some things he's got to work on, some things where he's just got to polish his game a little bit. And I think he'll play games eventually this season. It's just a matter.
There's no doubt in my mind that he can quarterback Detroit's second power play unit right now. Like with the rest of the NHL team, if he was there just for the power play, he'd be perfect. Like he is so smooth on the back end on the power play. When he gets to the NHL, after he develops even more, I mean, they're gonna have a player back there for sure. I agree with you, Devin. He needs more time for everything else. Like, take him out of the offensive zone. He just needs a little bit more experience, and he'll be fine. It's just a matter of just getting in those reps against NHL players, AHL players, and bringing it on a consistent basis where he's breaking the puck out consistently, defending the defensive zone consistently, he's taking the puck away, he's transitioning it up ice quickly. Just more reps, he'll be great. No doubt about that. But I couldn't help but notice, like, there were a couple points during the game where he looked a little, I don't know if lost is the right word, but unsure in the defensive end, especially on the penalty kill. And like that too, like I can understand. It's like they're all playing the same system, but who you're playing with on the PK can vary from day to day, from rep to rep in practice even. So I get it if things aren't clicking 100% there. But I was like, okay, I see why, or I see an opportunity for him in the AHL right here. This is a prime example on the penalty kill. Like, I don't expect him to be a full-time penalty killer in the NHL, but like, if you're gonna be a top 4 defenseman and, be an NHL regular, you're gonna end up on the penalty kill at some point, just for a matter of like, oh, Seider's in the box. Oh, Evans is in the box. You can't just keep 2 defensemen out there the entire 2 minutes. You're going to have to take up 1 shift at least on the penalty kill, even if you're not a regular. Point being, he's going to be fine. It's been a little bumpy, but he'll be fine.
They're giving him a long look, too. He played 21-35. The only person that played more was Mo Seider, and he also played 22 minutes on Tuesday.
I honestly feel like the biggest thing for him is just, and this is kind of goes back to what you're saying, Tony, where he just needs more reps. It's the speed of the game. Like I think it's getting used to how fast these players are, getting used to obviously the size of the rink and all the things that impacts. I think once he's able to get the experience, get the reps into where as he's playing, he can kind of mentally slow the game down a little bit. that's when he's clear for takeoff, basically. It's just a matter of being able to catch up to speed, basically.
I also wanted to point out that Andrew Kopp's looked like a different player in these 2 preseason games. And even in the scrimmages, he looks like maybe a healthy Andrew Kopp who could probably be a big factor. I know losing him last season kind of was when the Red Wings things started to go south, but an effective, healthy Andrew Kopp could be a really good player on that third line. And if he had to move up to the second line for injuries, for whatever, I'd feel comfortable with that. So keeping him healthy and seeing him play well this preseason is giving me a little more optimism.
If you would have told me a year ago that we'd have pretty glowing reviews about Andrew Kopp so far and kind of like, I don't know, about JT Compher, I would have been a little surprised, not going to lie. But here we are.
All right, so we're going to get into some predictions here. And as I mentioned before, the Red Wings have 6 preseason games left. They kick off the regular season October 9th against Montreal. Happy to go first. As I mentioned, I do think Emmett Finney starts the regular season with the Red Wings, plays opening night against Montreal. I think over the next 6 games, for however many he gets into, he's going to show Red Wings management and the coaching staff that he is an NHL player right now, and he is clearly gelling with Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond. And at least for the start of the season, he'll be there on that top line. Another prediction I have is we'll see John Gibson solidify himself as the starting goalie, aka 1A to Cam Talbot's 1B. I thought he looked great in the red and white game. I know he'll get some time, in these next few games coming up, and we'll see that he's the real deal. He's as advertised, and it's going to make that trade look better and better as the season progresses. Lastly, I don't think Nate Danielson will make the Red Wings for day one. He is going to deserve it, though. 1,000% he's going to deserve it. He is going to continue this hot streak that he's been on in the preseason and make it a very, very, very hard decision to be sent down. But I do think that's ultimately where he's going to end up. I don't think he'll stay there very long in Grand Rapids, but I think that'll be the most controversial thing that we'll see coming out of the preseason and getting the roster solidified for the regular season. It's that Danielson is not there, but he should be.
I like that, and I think I'll tack on to it and say that Carter Mazur is going to be in the exact same boat where he's not going to make the opening night roster, but the overall sentiment about him is that he'll be in Detroit soon. Whether that's they make a couple trades, I don't know if it's going to be all one, or somebody hits waivers or whatever. But I do think that by the end of preseason, it's going to be evident that it can't just be one kid. There's going to be a few of them that you're going to have to make room for. And then I also think that you will, to your point that you mentioned earlier, Tony, I do think someone will announce themselves as at least the starting option in the top 4 on that second pairing. I am going to go ahead and just say it'll be Johansson right now. He clearly has the inside track right now. I think he's looked pretty solid. You imagine it'll be with Edvinsson, and those two have clearly shown some chemistry. But then where we go after the season begins is anyone's guess. We'll see. I'm kind of starting to formulate this theory in my head about how they might clear space for kids, but we can talk about that in another show. But I think they'll have some answers on the blue line, at least have some direction, I guess is maybe the better answer for that. I think they'll know that they need to make room for some kids. And then my third prediction is you'll see some progress from the special teams, mainly the penalty kill. Not to the point that you go into the regular season like, okay, the penalty kill's ready to go, let's go. But you'll see some progression over the course of these next 6 games to where you can see that it's heading in the right direction. And there's maybe a little bit more confidence about it. I don't think it's in a place to where, there's a silver bullet that's going to fix it in one go. But I think that over the course of the preseason, over the course of players getting used to the systems and whatnot, you'll see that steady progress. Honestly, the Red Wings don't need their penalty kill to be top 10. It'd be great if it was, but if they can just get it to be just league average, that alone would be a substantial improvement for
Devin, once again, pounding the table.
You know it.
I'm going against you guys. And I'm going with Nate Danielson makes the opening right roster over Emmett Finney. Just because we all can't agree here, And let's not forget with 6 games, there could be injuries coming up. So Emmett Finney, it's an amazing story. It's too hard to wrap my head around yet. It's just too hard. Can it keep going? I mean, it's been 2 weeks. He didn't look that great with the Griffins last season. and not that he had a huge role or whatever, but I don't know. I think it's Nate Danielson or bust for me, and I just think it's because of his defensive game. Although, Evan Finney made that great play on Connor Bedard in the third period against that Blackhawks. That was something special too. And again, I love this kid's hockey IQ. I'm rooting for him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying against it. I got to see more. Is there more?
To me, it's significant that Todd McClellan not only wanted to see Finney play against Connor Bedard, but made it happen. Obviously, there was that whole story when Nate Danielson got drafted about how Connor Bedard named him Danielson as one of, if not the toughest players he played against in the WHL. But McClellan wanted to see how Finney looked, and Finney looked real good. So it's one of those things where you just got to keep playing him against high-end talent like Connor Bedard, because if he's going to make the roster, sure looks like it'll be on that top line with Larkin and Raymond, and you're going to face some tough competition on that line. So all I can do is keep it going,
Yeah, guys. I mean, these two preseason games, as I just told Devin off air earlier, that it kind of feels like my fantasy football team right when I draft it right after. It's like, man, this could be a good team this season. And now I'm in week 3 with Marvin Harrison, Ashton Gianti, and Joe Burrow, and I'm in dead last place. So preseason hype is, it's something to get us all optimistic and have fun with. And, these 2 games have been exciting. Training camp was exciting, and the red and white game was great. I don't think things could have gone better for the Red Wings this preseason. So we'll see with that. Quick, before we wrap here, guys, we got to wrap it up. But Devin, news and notes real quick. What do you got for us?
Real quick, 2 quick hits here. We'll start with the Red Wings semi-related one. Our old pal, Robbie Fabry, who last played with the Red Wings back in the 23-24 season, did sign a tryout agreement with the Pittsburgh Penguins. I don't know about you guys, but I still wish him well. Last season with the Anaheim Ducks, he had 16 points in 44 games. Hopefully he sticks with the Penguins there.
I always root for that guy. I feel like his career could have been something different. Has anyone had worse injury luck than that guy blowing out his knees? I mean, great character guy. He had great speed, and I wish him well. And I hope to see him stick in Pittsburgh. And I think there is an opportunity in Pittsburgh for them, especially with the team that doesn't look like they're going to try to contend this year. And hopefully we don't see them end up with Gavin McKenna like I predict the NHL will probably do for it. Go ahead, Devin. I'm sorry to interrupt.
You're good. Any thoughts on that, Tony? Sorry.
About Evan's conspiracy theory or about Robbie Fabry?
Robbie Fabry.
Yeah, I mean, like you guys were saying, I root for him too. Like, hope he can catch on with Pittsburgh and play there this season. Maybe we'll see him Friday night. See Anthony Mantha as well. A little blast from the past. But yeah, I mean, hopefully he makes the team.
Mantha, another damn jersey I bought right before he got traded. All right, keep going.
Fabry and Mantha getting flashbacks from the 2019-20 season. Time to move on. Also looking outside of Detroit, but still within the Atlantic Division. And this one could be very significant. Florida Panthers top center and captain Alexander Barkov went down with an apparent lower body, maybe even leg injury of some sort in practice today. Could not put weight on one of his legs and needed help to get off of the ice. If that is as significant as it looked, obviously we wish him well first and foremost. You'd hate to see an athlete like that go down in what looked like a nothing. I can't even call it a play. I don't even know what happened there, but he clearly was in some distress. But that's also obviously a very significant loss for the reigning Stanley Cup champions and a significant division fault for the Red Wings. Maybe this is a way that Anton Lundell ascends for the Panthers. That could be a heck of a storyline. But for the Red Wings and the rest of the teams in the Atlantic Division, they got to smell blood in the water, because if he misses significant time, like I said, that is a huge loss for the Florida Panthers. What do you guys think about that?
I think this is where preseason predictions, like standings predictions for the season, this is where I kind of take those with a grain of salt, because everyone has their own formula for coming up with these things. And at least to me, they come across as continuing what has happened in the past. Past performance equals future performance. That's not the case. Anything can happen. Fluke things like this can happen. And the Panthers are also without Matthew Tkachuk until I think December. So for those who are saying the Panthers are going to have a three-peat, they're going to win the Atlantic, sure, that may very well happen. But would you be making those same predictions with this information that has come to light now, with Barkov potentially missing time. Just to add on to what Devin was saying, I haven't seen a report confirming anything yet. It just, we saw the video. Florida hasn't announced anything. Hopefully, for the sake of the game, he's okay. But if he's not, then the Atlantic Division standings, as predicted, may look a little different.
That's a huge blow. You're talking about arguably 2 top 15 players. Some will say top 10, and the injury did not look good. Anytime, I see it every day in football. Anytime you have to have 2 people come up and carry you off and you can't put weight on that leg, that's something to be very concerned about. So Barkov is great for the game. One of the game's most underrated stars. I think in the last few years, more and more people obviously become more familiar with him with the Stanley Cup wins, but he's a heck of a player. And anytime you lose something like that, that's a significant blow to your roster. That's like the Bengals losing Joe Burrow.
Way to bring it back.
Back to my fantasy team that I'm still depressed about. That all you got?
That's all I got.
Good.
All right, guys. So that's going to do it for episode 53 of the Flying Octopus Podcast. And guess what? There's a lot of games coming up, like a lot. I think we have 5 games between now and the next time we're going to talk to you. The Red Wings will be playing in Pittsburgh tonight, Friday, September 26th. Then on Saturday, it's the Buffalo for a rematch with the Sabres. Monday, Red Wings are back in Detroit hosting the Penguins. Tuesday, in Chicago. And then Thursday, we'll have the Red Wings and the Maple Leafs. 5 games on the dock this week for the Red Wings. We're really excited to talk to you guys about it. We'll be back next week to cover all of it and more. Thanks for watching episode 53 of the Flying Octopus Podcast. We'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Flying Octopus Podcast. Follow us on YouTube at the Flying Octopus channel and Twitter at Flying Octopod.